Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some seriously wild true crime stories making headlines right now. We got a whole stack of news articles and court documents, and
Oh, yeah.
you won't believe the twists and turns.
It is a wild mix, I gotta say. From a possible double jeopardy case in Boston
Oh, wow.
to a shocking murder in Switzerland. I mean, these stories really run the gamut.
Let's kick things off with the Karen Reed case.
Okay.
This one is
Yeah.
a real head-scratcher. This is a woman accused of killing her boyfriend with her car.
Okay.
But her first trial, it ended in a hung jury.
Uh-huh.
And now, for those not familiar, a hung jury basically means
Yeah.
the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. So it's a bit of a legal limbo.
Exactly. And in this case, multiple jurors have come forward saying that they were ready to acquit Karen of the murder charge.
Oh, wow.
But they were never specifically asked for a verdict on that charge.
Really?
Yeah. So now the defense is arguing that retrying Karen would violate the principle of double jeopardy, which basically you can't be tried for the same crime twice.
Right. Yeah. It does raise some serious ethical questions.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really fair to put someone through another trial when there's a strong possibility a jury was leaning toward acquittal?
Yeah, that's the crux of the issue.
Right.
And, adding fuel to the fire, there's allegations of prosecutorial misconduct.
Oh, geez.
There are whispers that the state might be pursuing a retrial more out of pride
Oh,
than
but-
a genuine belief that Karen is actually guilty.
Okay, so picture this. You're having dinner with your son-in-law. Everything seems normal. But little do you know, the severed head of your daughter is just a floor away,
Oh, my God.
hidden in a basement trash can. That's the chilling reality for the father of Christina Jojic,
Oh,
a
God.
former Miss Switzerland finalist.
That is just horrifying.
It's beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
Her husband, Thomas, initially claimed that he found her dead and panicked. But his story quickly unraveled. First, he changed his story to self-defense. But the autopsy, it revealed that Christina had been strangled, a method of murder often associated with intimate partner violence.
Right.
And to make matters even worse, the way her body was dismembered, it just points to a level of premeditation and brutality that's hard to stomach.
The details are pretty gruesome. Her spine was severed, her torso was split open,
Oh,
and some of her organs were pureed in an industrial blender.
oh my goodness.
Yeah. And he had dinner with her father
No.
while all of this was going on downstairs.
It's mind-boggling. And then you learn that Christina was seemingly living a perfect life.
Yeah.
Successful businesswoman, former beauty queen.
Right.
But behind closed doors
Yeah.
was a very different story. Friends revealed that she was planning to leave Thomas due to his abusive behavior.
It's a tragic reminder that appearances can be deceiving
Yeah.
and that domestic violence can happen to anyone, regardless of their social standing or outward success.
Now from Switzerland, we travel to Oklahoma, where two young mothers, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly, vanished without a trace.
Oh.
They were on their way to pick up Veronica's children for a birthday party, and then poof, they were gone.
It's every parent's worst nightmare.
It is. But the truth behind their disappearance is absolutely chilling. They were ambushed, stabbed to death, and their bodies were stuffed into a freezer and buried on a farm.
Oh, wow.
Sounds like something out of a horror movie.
Uh-huh.
But what's even more disturbing is that the alleged mastermind behind this horrific crime
Yeah.
is Veronica's own mother-in-law,
Really?
Tiffany Adams.
Wow.
It seems that Tiffany harbored a deep hatred for Veronica
Oh.
and wanted her dead. And she didn't act alone. She enlisted the help of her boyfriend and a group of friends whom she referred to as
Oh.
God's misfits.
God's misfits. That's
God's misfits.
that's creepy.
What a creepy name for a group capable of such brutality.
Yeah, geez.
But it gets even stranger, because apparently they thought that they could pull this off by confiding in their teenage daughter,
Oh, God.
expecting her to provide a believable alibi for them.
Talk about a miscalculation.
Right.
Yeah.
That teenage daughter became a key witness for the prosecution.
Wow.
She led investigators to the burial site
Oh, gee.
and spilled the beans on her parents' involvement.
Wow.
Now, let's switch gears to a case that initially had everyone baffled. The mysterious deaths of 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans who were found frozen to death after watching a football game.
This one had all the makings of a classic whodunit.
Yeah, right.
3 friends, Clayton McGinn, Ricky Johnson, and David Harrington, went to their buddy Jordan Willis's house to watch the Chiefs play.
Right.
They never made it home.
They were discovered 2 days later,
Oh, my.
frozen solid in Jordan's backyard.
Oh, my gosh.
And naturally, speculation ran rampant. Was it foul play, drugs? Was Jordan somehow
That's a
involved?
real puzzle.
Right.
But months of investigation have painted a clearer, albeit tragic picture.
Yeah.
The autopsy revealed that all 3 men had lethal levels of fentanyl in their systems, 3 times the lethal dose to be exact.
Wow. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Fentanyl is incredibly potent,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to be popping up everywhere these days.
Yeah. It's a serious public health crisis.
Yeah.
This case is a harsh reminder of the devastating consequences of the opioid epidemic.
Right.
These men went to watch a football game with their friend
Yeah.
and ended up victims of a deadly drug.
It's a terrible tragedy.
Yeah.
And while this development brings some closure to their families,
Yeah.
there are still so many unanswered questions.
Yeah.
I mean, what really happened that night? Was the fentanyl intentional, or was it unknowingly mixed with other drugs?
Yeah. We may never know the full story,
Yeah.
but one thing is for sure. This case highlights the dangers of illicit drug use,
Right.
especially in an era where fentanyl is being laced into so many different substances.
Now, for a story that will truly make your blood run cold, we head to Los Angeles, where a UCLA student was brutally murdered while working alone in a furniture store.
This case is just heartbreaking. 24-year-old Brianna Cooper, a graduate student studying architectural design, was stabbed 46 times
Oh, my goodness.
by a man who posed as a customer.
46 times.
Yeah.
The sheer brutality of that is almost impossible to fathom.
It's absolutely horrific. And to add another layer of horror to this already horrifying story, the killer, Sean Smith, recorded the entire attack.
No way.
Yeah, he captured Brianna's desperate pleas for her life
God.
and his own hateful rants about women.
Ooh.
The knife was even found bent at the scene from the force of the stabbing.
It sends chills down your spine just thinking about it.
Yeah.
This wasn't just some random act of violence. This was a targeted attack fueled by misogyny. Sean had a history of violence against women,
Right.
and he deliberately sought out a lone female victim.
And what's even more infuriating is that he was out on bond for multiple violent crimes at the time of the murder.
How is it possible that someone with his record was even allowed to walk the streets?
It's a complete failure of the justice system.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the jury saw through Sean's pathetic attempts to claim it was a spur-of-the-moment decision. They found him guilty of first-degree murder, and he's now facing life in prison without parole.
It's a small victory for Brianna's grieving family, but it will never bring her back. This case is a stark reminder that we need serious criminal justice reform to protect vulnerable individuals from repeat offenders.
Absolute.
Now buckle up for this one,
Oh, boy.
because it's truly disturbing. In South Africa, 3 farm owners are accused of a crime so heinous it's almost beyond belief. They allegedly killed 2 women and, wait for it, fed their bodies to pigs.
I know. It's hard to even process something so depraved. And the alleged motive, the women were caught stealing expired dairy products.
Stealing expired food.
Yeah.
That's their justification for taking 2 lives and then disposing of their bodies in such a horrific way.
It's utterly incomprehensible. It just shows how deeply ingrained inequality and brutality can be in certain parts of the world. These men allegedly took the law into their own hands, enacting a punishment that was beyond cruel and unusual.
It's a chilling reminder that injustice can manifest in the most shocking and unexpected ways.
Absolutely. And this case is still ongoing.
Right.
So we'll be following it closely to see how justice unfolds.
Our final case for today hits close to home, exploring the darkest depths of family betrayal.
Oh, no.
A Utah sheriff's deputy, Marba Martinez, was found strangled to death in her own home,
And the prime suspect.
her own father. Hector Martinez is currently a fugitive after allegedly stalking and murdering his own daughter.
Oh, my God. That's terrible.
It's a story that will leave you shaking your head in disbelief. The evidence paints a disturbing picture of a deeply troubled father-daughter relationship. Text messages between Marba and her father, Hector, reveal a very unsettling dynamic. He was possessive, controlling, and consumed by an unhealthy jealousy that went far beyond the bounds of normal fatherly concern.
It's like something out of a psychological thriller. And it gets worse because Marva found a bag of her underwear and used feminine hygiene products in Hector's room.
Oh my God.
It's deeply disturbing.
It's a complete violation of trust on a level that's hard to even comprehend. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. Hector had been stalking Marba. He'd put a tracking device on her car, followed her on a date, and even disabled the security cameras at their home.
It's a classic case of possessiveness and control escalating to violence. And in a final act of cowardice,
Yeah.
after strangling his daughter, Hector fled the country, leaving behind a trail of devastation and heartbreak.
Oh my God.
But before he vanished, he confessed his crime to his brother in a chilling text message.
Can you imagine receiving a text like that from your own brother?
I can't even imagine.
I made a big mistake,
Yeah.
an unforgivable sin.
Wow.
Those were his words. He knew the weight of his actions, yet he chose to run.
It's a heartbreaking reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places.
Right.
Even within our own families.
Well, that was a heavy dose of reality. We've covered a lot of ground today, from potential double jeopardy cases to international tragedies to cases that expose the dark side of human nature. We'll take a short break,
Okay.
but when we return, we'll delve even deeper into these cases, exploring the psychological complexities, the legal battles, and the lasting impact these crimes have had on the lives of those involved.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the deep dive. Hope you're ready for more because we're about to unpack some truly fascinating aspects of these cases.
You know, what's really unsettling about the Karen Read case is, there are rumors of a possible cover-up. Her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, was a police officer. And some people believe that his colleagues might have tampered with evidence to protect his reputation.
That's a serious allegation. And it adds another layer of complexity to an already convoluted case. I mean, you have inconsistencies in the prosecution's narrative, a lack of physical evidence directly linking Karen to the crime, and then these jurors coming forward claiming they were ready to acquit her on the most serious charge.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder about the motivations behind the push for a retrial. I mean, are they truly seeking justice, or are they more concerned with saving face and winning at all costs?
Yeah, that's a question that only the prosecutors can answer, but it's certainly something that legal experts and the public will be scrutinizing closely as this case moves forward.
Now, let's circle back to the murder of Christina Joekbik in Switzerland. This case is just so disturbing on so many levels. It's hard to wrap your head around what could drive a seemingly ordinary husband and father to commit such a horrific act.
Right, and then to act so nonchalantly afterward, having dinner with her father while her dismembered remains are just a floor away. It's chilling.
It really speaks to a level of detachment and callousness that's hard to comprehend. The court documents paint a picture of Thomas as a controlling and manipulative individual who was consumed by jealousy and rage.
Absolutely, and it seems that Christina's decision to leave him may have been what triggered a psychotic break. You know, this case highlights the fact that domestic abuse is not always physical. It can be emotional, psychological, and financial, and it can escalate to horrific levels of violence, as we've tragically seen here.
It's a stark reminder that we need to be vigilant in recognizing the signs of abuse and supporting those who are trapped in these dangerous situations.
Speaking of chilling, let's revisit the Oklahoma case involving the two young mothers, Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. The level of premeditation in this crime is truly unsettling. They bought stun guns, burner phones, even a large freezer to transport and dispose of the bodies.
It's almost like they were following some kind of macabre checklist.
Mm.
And to think the alleged mastermind behind all of this is Veronica's own mother-in-law. The betrayal of trust is just mind-blowing.
It really is. It seems Tiffany's hatred for Veronica was so intense that she was willing to orchestrate her murder, even though it meant jeopardizing her own relationship with her grandchildren.
And let's not forget the role of her accomplices, the so-called God's misfits. They were just as complicit in this horrific act.
It's a classic example of how groupthink can lead to terrible consequences. You have a charismatic leader like Tiffany who manipulates and exploits those around her. And then you have the followers who may have their own doubts and reservations, but ultimately go along with the plan out of loyalty, fear, or a misguided sense of belonging.
It's a cautionary tale about the importance of critical thinking and having the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable.
Now, remember the case of the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans found frozen to death in a backyard. It's a tragedy on multiple levels. We have the loss of 3 young lives, the devastating impact on their families and friends, and the stark reminder of the opioid crisis gripping our nation.
The fact that these men had 3 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in their systems is incredibly alarming. It suggests that they were completely unaware of the potency of what they were taking.
It highlights the fact that fentanyl is being laced into a wide range of illicit substances. It's a game changer in the drug world, and one that's having deadly consequences.
It's so scary. You could think you're taking one thing, and it could be laced with fentanyl without you even knowing it.
Exactly. And that's why education and harm reduction strategies are so crucial in combating this epidemic. We need to make sure people are aware of the risks associated with drug use, particularly in an era where fentanyl is so prevalent.
Now let's talk about the brutal murder of Breonna Cooper, the UCLA student. This case really hits hard because it exposes the vulnerability of women in our society and the misogynistic violence that continues to plague us.
It's a sobering reminder that even in a seemingly safe space like a furniture store, women can be targeted simply because of their gender.
The fact that Sean Smith, the perpetrator, recorded the attack and captured Breonna's pleas for mercy in his own hateful rants is beyond disturbing.
It speaks to a level of depravity and a deep-seated hatred for women that is truly chilling. And the fact that he was out on bond for multiple violent crimes at the time of the murder is just mind-boggling.
It's a complete failure of our justice system to protect vulnerable individuals from repeat offenders. And it raises some serious questions about how we assess risk and make decisions about bail and parole.
Absolutely. This case is a wake-up call that we need to prioritize public safety and hold violent offenders accountable for their actions.
Now let's shift our focus to South Africa, where those 3 farm owners are accused of killing 2 women and feeding their bodies to pigs. It's a case that's hard to even talk about because it's so utterly depraved.
The alleged motive stealing expired dairy products is almost too absurd to believe. It highlights the deep-seated inequalities and power imbalances that persist in many parts of the world.
It's a stark reminder that, for some people, basic human rights are still a distant dream.
And this case is still unfolding, so it'll be interesting to see how the legal system handles such a horrific and unusual crime.
Let's bring it back to the U.S. and the case of Marba Martinez, the Utah sheriff's deputy murdered by her own father. It's a story that really gets under your skin. The text messages between Marba and her father, Hector, reveal a disturbing dynamic. He was possessive, controlling, and consumed by an unhealthy jealousy that had no place in a father-daughter relationship.
It's a classic example of how possessiveness and control can escalate to violence. And the fact that he stalked her, tracked her movements, and then ultimately took her life in a fit of rage is just heartbreaking.
It's a chilling reminder that domestic violence can take many forms, and it can happen to anyone, regardless of their age, profession, or social standing.
Absolutely. And it's essential that we break the silence surrounding domestic violence and create a culture where victims feel safe coming forward and seeking help. We need to educate ourselves about the warning signs, support those who are in danger, and hold abusers accountable for their actions.
We've covered a lot of disturbing ground in this deep dive. But it's important to remember that these cases, while shocking, are not representative of the whole human experience. For every act of cruelty, there are countless acts of kindness, compassion, and resilience.
These stories remind us of the fragility of life, the importance of human connection, and the need to cherish every moment.
We've explored some truly dark and disturbing cases today, but I think it's important to remember that even in the face of such unimaginable evil,
Yeah.
there are always glimmers of hope.
You're absolutely right. Throughout these stories, we've also witnessed incredible acts of courage and resilience.
Yeah.
Think about those witnesses who bravely came forward to share their stories.
Right.
Or the tireless dedication of the investigators.
Right.
Fighting for justice.
And let's not forget the families of the victims.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've faced unimaginable loss and heartbreak, yet they continue to seek answers and accountability.
Right.
It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit.
It's inspiring. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, compassion and the pursuit of justice can prevail.
So let's take a moment to reflect on some of the overarching themes that have emerged from these cases. One that stands out is the pervasive issue of domestic violence. We saw it in the tragic murders of Christina Joikbic and Marva Martinez.
Right.
Both victims of partners who were supposed to love and protect them.
It's a chilling reminder that abuse can occur behind closed doors, regardless of someone's social standing or outward appearances.
Right.
It's crucial that we recognize the warning signs and intervene early on. It's about creating a culture where victims feel safe to come forward and seek help, and where abusers are held accountable for their actions.
Another disturbing pattern we see is the role of jealousy and rage as catalysts for violence.
Yeah.
Tiffany Adams' hatred for her daughter-in-law led her to orchestrate a cold-blooded murder.
Right.
And then we have Hector Martinez, whose possessiveness toward his own daughter spiraled into a fatal act of violence.
It's a stark reminder that unchecked emotions can have devastating consequences. It's a reminder that we need to address these feelings in healthy ways and seek help when we're struggling to manage them.
And we can't ignore the systemic issues that contribute to these tragedies. In several cases, we saw the failures of our criminal justice system to protect vulnerable individuals. Sean Smith, the man who brutally murdered Breonna Cooper, was out on bond for multiple violent crimes at the time of the attack.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that we need serious reforms to ensure that dangerous individuals are not allowed to roam free and put innocent lives at risk.
We need to demand better from our justice system. It should prioritize public safety and rehabilitation while ensuring that victims' voices are heard and justice is served.
These cases also force us to confront the uncomfortable realities of societal inequalities and the abuse of power. Those South African farm owners accused of killing 2 women for stealing expired dairy products.
Yeah.
It's a chilling example of how unchecked power can lead to barbarity.
It's a reminder that we must remain vigilant in our fight for justice and equality for all, regardless of their race, socioeconomic status, or any other factor that might make them vulnerable to exploitation and abuse.
So what can we take away from all of this?
Yeah.
What lessons can we apply to our own lives?
For me, it reinforces the importance of cherishing our loved ones,
Yeah.
appreciating the fragility of life,
Right.
and never taking our safety for granted.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of our surroundings, trust our instincts, and speak up when we see something wrong.
I agree. And we also need to be more compassionate and understanding.
Yes.
You never know what someone else is going through.
Right.
A simple act of kindness could make a world of difference in someone's life.
Absolutely.
We can't turn a blind eye to the darkness that exists in the world, but we can choose to be beacons of light, fighting for justice and compassion in our own communities.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect note to end on. It's been a heavy but important conversation.
It really has been.
These stories remind us that evil thrives in silence. Let's break the silence, speak up for the victims, and work together to create a safer, more just world.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and perhaps even a little bit empowering. Remember, knowledge is power. And by understanding the complexities of these cases, we can become more informed, more compassionate, and more engaged citizens.
And that's what the Depth Dive is all about. We'll be back next week with another deep dive exploring a new set of captivating cases. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.